Hi, everybody. Welcome to Out of the Park Now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Out of the Park Now. I'm your host, Rich Grisham, Chief Marketing Officer, Out of the Park Developments. We are so excited because today we get to announce for the very first time that Franchise Hockey Manager 6 is available for pre-order, and it is coming out on October 11th, 2019. That's right, Friday, October 11th. That is the release of Franchise Hockey Manager 6, the only NHL licensed game on the PC. You're going to hear all about Franchise Hockey Manager 6 tonight with Jeff Riddles and Adam, our community manager. But just know that if you pre-order it from us today through ootpdevelopments.com, not only will you get it for 10% off the price of $39.99, you'll get it for just $35.99, but you'll also get it 5 days early. You'll get it on Monday, October 7th. And, of course, that just really helps us at Out of the Park Developments and this great hockey strategy franchise that the team has just been working so hard to keep on building on and create the best version of Franchise Hockey Manager ever. That's right, Franchise Hockey Manager 6. We are announcing it right here, right now. Available for pre-order today through ootpdevelopments.com. Now, if you're a Steam person, don't worry. You can still get it through Steam. You just can't pre-order it. That's all right. If you put it on your Steam wish list, though, it'll be right there for you on October 11th, and you can still get that 10% discount the first week of release. So we got you covered in every direction. So again, tonight we got a great show. We talk in depth for the first time ever about Franchise Hockey Manager 6 with our producer and our community manager, and we have a lot of fun. So please check it out and enjoy the show. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Out of the Park Now. I'm your host, Rich Grisham. I am really excited because today we are here to announce Franchise Hockey Manager 6. And here to announce it with me is the producer of the game, Mr. Jeff Riddles. Jeff, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Rich. How you doing?
Fantastic. And also here with me is our community manager, Adam. Adam, what's going on, man? How are you?
Excited to be here, Rich. Excited to talk about this.
That's right. Franchise Hockey Manager 6. Once again, licensed with the NHL. The only NHL licensed game available on PC. Franchise Hockey Manager 6 arrives on October 11th, 2019. And if you pre-order it, not only will you save 10% off the $39.99 price, but you will also get it 4 days early on October 7th. You can pre-order it today from Out of the Park Developments directly from our site. You can go there today and you can click on the button that will let you do that. You can also, if you're a Steam person, you can't pre-order it, but you can put it on your wish list. The Steam page is live. You can get all sorts of great information about it as well. So let's talk about what Franchise Hockey Manager 6 is. And there's a lot to Franchise Hockey Manager 6. A lot of new stuff, a lot of improvements, a lot of detail. Jeff, I'm going to start with what we are talking about a lot, which is the new Rivalry system. What is it and why does it matter in Franchise Hockey Manager 6?
Well, obviously, rivalries are a big part of hockey. You've got lots of traditional rivalries between teams, Leafs and Canadians, Rangers and Islanders, Rangers and Flyers, Rangers and Devils. And that's it. We wanted to highlight that a little bit more. Right up to now in the game, it's just another game when you're playing those teams, and it really shouldn't be like that. So what happens now when you get a rivalry game? We've added all these individual existing rivalries into the team, and when two rivals play, that's going to have an effect on the way the players play. For one, some players, if they get up for big games like that, they'll tend to play better in the rivalry games. The results of the rivalry games will matter more to fans, and that's a whole other new system we've added: the fan response and fan happiness. So you want to beat your rivals to keep your fans happy. The rivalry games will tend to be a little more physical. There's more of a chance of penalties and fights and that sort of thing going on in a rivalry game, particularly if it's a really heated rivalry. And well, the other thing rivalries do, this is all completely adaptable. It'll change over time. So you may have rivalries fade out and be replaced by new ones.
It sounds like one of the interesting things about the rivalry system is not only, when you win, does your outlook respond, but typically because your rivals are in your division or your conference, those wins are usually important for you to be successful. So it's really almost, a double win. And you mentioned the fans. Let's go to the fans. Let's talk a little bit more about that. You mentioned, about fan happiness. What does that mean? And how does that work, with some of the other systems too?
Yeah, now we track the happiness of your fan base on a day-to-day basis. So depending on what you're doing in the game, if you're on a losing streak, if you're losing games to your rivals, then it can slide down. If you trade away popular players or fire a popular coach, that can hurt your fan happiness. And conversely, there's a lot of things you can do to get it back up too, winning games and getting first round draft pick, trading for a good player, that sort of thing. And the reason that's important now is that fan happiness feeds into your owner's happiness with you and therefore your job security, as does the player chemistry system that we added last year. They sort of fan happiness and player chemistry are now feeding into the overall job security. So you sort of have to keep a look on and keep an eye on how happy your players are with you and how happy your fans are with you, in addition to satisfying whatever the owner wants.
Excellent. Adam, that we've got obviously the latest and greatest rosters for 2019-2020 NHL season. But let's talk historical stuff. There's some big additions and modifications to the various historical ways that you can play Franchise Hockey Manager, which, in case you didn't know, goes all the way back to the beginning of hockey with the history of it. So, Adam, what are a couple things historically related that you're excited about this year?
Well, one of the big things is Jeff was really busy working on this, and he got in all the historical staff and owners and coaches. So just gives a little bit more authenticity to who's going to be, your owner or maybe the coach or the general manager. So for instance, if you play in the 1980s as the Toronto Maple Leafs, you can have the very nice Mr. Harold Ballard as your owner trying to direct you on how your team should go. Besides that, of course, one of the big things we've added, which was a long requested feature, is historical league editing. Meaning, if you want to expand earlier than what the NHL actually did, if you want to change what teams come in when, or if you want to do something really interesting like having the WHA still exist, you can do that. And so you can add teams, change the conferences early, and that's again a really long requested feature, and very happy to have that.
Yeah, I got to imagine there's a lot of tinkering that you can do, and I love stuff like that. Like I love looking back at historical leagues and sort of wondering, if you would move this around, or if you would put these two teams together, what it would look like. I think in baseball, I think all the time, like, what if the Yankees and Mets just played in the same league, in the same division for the last 50, 100 years? How different would that look? And again, when you talk about Franchise Hockey Manager and your ability to do this, you can really do some intricate stuff. Jeff, I would imagine there's some interesting things interesting tinkering that you've done in the new historical editing settings that you have now.
Yeah, you can do things just testing it out to see how everything works. When you do some crazy stuff with it, you do stop evolving the league at sort of the original 6 level where it was in the 50s and 60s. Never add any expansion teams, and then play all the way to 2020 like that, and see who are the guys in modern hockey who could have actually stuck around if the league had stayed at only 6 teams and there were very limited number of jobs available.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. Consequently, like you said, you could also sort of merge leagues or shrink them or increase them. So many different possibilities. I love that. Jeff, some other interesting big time new features and additions. One of them is improved player modeling, right? So there's all sorts of different things that can happen with players, including on ice and off ice incidents and such. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that's all about?
Well, one of the things that can happen to him that we've added this year is suspensions. So there's not just, you don't have to worry about injuries anymore. If one of your players does something dumb on or off the ice, he may wind up getting suspended if the league decides that whatever he did was bad enough to merit that. So you may have to work around losing a player like that. Another thing we've done this year with the player modeling, a lot of the sort of hidden stats that determine how the players react to certain things, whether they're good at, whether they whether they struggle when the conditions are adverse, whether they respond well or whether they tend to play well in big games. That is a lot more adaptive than it used to be. Now those ratings will evolve based on what happens earlier on in the guy's career. So if he gets, if a guy's getting traded every year at the beginning when he's a young guy, his loyalty rating is probably going to shrink way down, and he's going to be kind of ruthless when it comes to contract negotiations later on in his career.
Interesting. I'm curious, sort of, what goes into some of the algorithms behind suspensions, especially for off ice? I mean, obviously with out of the park baseball in particular, people for years have delighted in some of the things that happen off the field, and obviously Franchise Hockey Manager now has some of that as well. But suspensions, there's got to be some interesting things that can pop up that would cause you to get suspended for off ice incidents, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to give away too many spoilers because it's fun to find this stuff in the game. But exactly. There's things. We added storylines the year before last, to the game, which is another out of the park thing, and so all sorts of weird stuff can go on. Players can make bad decisions off the ice, particularly if they've got the kind of internal ratings that makes them a little more controversial and get into trouble. So there's a whole variety of stuff where they may do things that either the league and or their team aren't that thrilled with, and can get them suspended. And there's also we haven't really gone and done it yet, but having something like the suspension system is probably going to enable me to do things like when you're playing in the World War II years, we can have guys use that suspension system to sort of draft guys into the army, so they're going to be unavailable for long lengths of time in the early 40s. And it'll get the league a little closer to what the actual talent level looked like in, say, 1943 or 44 or 45, where you had basically a lot of really young rookies and then the old retreads from the minors that are filling in for all the good players who are away in the Army and Navy and Air Force.
Interesting. Another big one, and again, the kind of thing that really can appeal to almost any kind of a player, because of it's sort of basic simplicity and yet also the possibilities. And this is the exhibition mode, and I love this. So tell us exactly what the exhibition mode is, and what are some of the interesting things that you have done with it as you've been sort of designing it, building it, testing it, and bringing it to fruition.
Exhibition mode lets you, it's something that's been requested for quite a while now. It sort of operates separately from the regular game. You don't have to start up a new save to get it to work. You can do it right from the start screen of the game without going through the whole trouble of, creating your own manager and setting up a league. You can just pick out any two playable teams in the league, including all the historical years, and have them play a single game that you can watch, or a whole series of games, and see what the results are. So you can match up, say, the the Flyers, those Broad Street Bullies from the mid 1970s, and put them up against a modern team and see what that looks like. Or and not necessarily an modern NHL team. You can throw them against a Russian team from 2019, or say a low-level minor league team. Any combination you can think of. And you can see how that'll turn out.
Did you say that could be a single match or a series?
Yeah, you can play. I think the upper limit. I don't remember for sure. I think it's up to 100 games
Oh my! I was going to say,
set up
like,
autoplay. So if you want to see definitively who is the better of those two teams, you can set up a ton of simulations between them.
it's amazing. It's like those old Summit series, or were they like 9-game series? Some of those, Canada and Russia.
Yeah, the 9-game one, 1972, Canada and Russia.
Yeah.
Oh,
My goodness.
Oh, what? 8 games. Come
8
on.
games. Sorry. Yeah, 8 games. Well, Rich said 9. It threw me off.
I knew it was more than 7. At least I was in
Yeah.
the correct range. You know, not everybody knows what the Summit series is.
Yeah.
Everybody in Canada should.
Good point. So, Adam, I got to believe that you've been dreaming of some interesting exhibition matches and series as you've been looking forward to trying this.
Yeah. One of the number one things that I want to try. So everybody knows, or I mean, if you follow Dreams, you know that I am from Manitoba and Winnipeg and been a longtime Jets fan. And when the Jets were brought into the NHL, coming from the WHA, the NHL was pretty mean to all the WHA teams and basically tore them all apart. Winnipeg actually had a really good WHA team, and I'm very interested to see how good they could have been against some of those NHL teams at the time, and see if they would have been a Stanley Cup contender like many people think they could have went off as. And so that's kind of the number one. After that, it's just kind of fun to play, guys who probably should have had a little bit longer careers. So kind of like what does a still healthy Bobby Orr look like with his team playing against like Gretzky and the Oilers in the 80s?
Right.
Things like that.
Very interesting. Yeah, again, lots of possibilities. And again, what I love is it's not just a single game. It's any sort of any number that you want to, up to 100 or near 100. That's amazing. I love that. Jeff, there's a lot of information at your fingertips in Franchise Hockey Manager 6. A lot of reports, a lot of team information. You guys have put a lot of work into that. Let's talk about what are some of those reports and new ways to look at information that's helpful.
Well, what we've done is taken some things that, are similar to things that already exist in Out of the Park Baseball, added prospect rankings, which will let you see who the best young players in the league are. I mean, if you're an NHL fan, you've probably got an idea who the top young guys coming up are. But if you're playing as another league, it's a good way to help figure out who's who and who's going to be the top players in the league soon. It'll also give you a team-by-team ranking of which teams have the best up-and-coming young players. And there's also a similar ranking for the top overall players. So you can see who the best players in the league are by position and overall at any given time, and which teams are the best on paper. There's also a league-wide injury report that we've added, where you can get a quick, instead of having a page through all the individual teams' roster screens to check their injuries, you can just pull up one injury report and you can see what's going on in the whole league injury wise. And we've got one other one that's kind of fun. It'll let you see the top or the best 100 and worst 100 skater and goalie performances in the league that season. So you can quickly see who had the best game of the year or who had a really, really terrible game.
Excellent. Now, I know there was some screens that you were showing off earlier on our live stream. Also, there was a really cool calendar screen, for example, which I know, as you were explaining, gives you a lot better view, little clearer picture, no pun intended, as to what your schedule is like. What some more other kinds of visual cues that you guys have added this year to make things even better in Franchise Hockey Manager 6?
Yeah, well, the calendar screen, that's the team schedule screen that's replacing, although you can still look at the old view if you want to look at it that way. It's gives you the schedule in a much more friendlier, easier to read calendar view. And then we've made some changes to the overall look of the game. I think the font we're using this year is a little bit more readable, particularly at certain screen sizes, than the one we've used the last couple of years. That's new. We've made some changes to the line screens, where you set up the lines for your team, added some functionality to that, where you can save individual lineups, where you can lock players to a particular line. So if you want to do that, if you want to say, if you've got certain players you want to be on a specific line for your team, you can make sure they're there and then just ask the AI's advice for however you should set up the rest of the team. And it's not going to mess around with the guys that you've locked in place. So that's something that people have been asking for a while, and we were able to do. And I think that'll be really helpful.
There's a lot going on. It's not just the big time bullets with features and functions. There's a lot going on in Franchise Hockey Manager 6. Some subtle improvements as well. Adam, are there like maybe one or two new features, big or small, that we may not have mentioned so far that you like, or that you're intrigued about, or is something that that you've wanted or been asked about for a while that's made it into Franchise Hockey Manager 6?
All right, I'm going to give off three here fairly quick.
Nice.
And the three quick ones are: we've added a few new playable leagues, some tier 2 leagues out of Europe, including we've also added a new tournament in the Spangler Cup. The second big thing that we've been asked about and have got in is the ability to import your FHM5 saves. And the last one, which again, I believe Jeff talked about that, you have to be on July 1st.
If you want to import old FHM5 save and you want to get that ready for when you finally get your hands on FHM6, get it up to July 1st and make sure you save a copy of it as of that date, and that's the one you'll be importing.
Yes, and the last one is one that I had a hand in, and so did Jeff, and that was creating some new historical challenges.
Like this. I was going to ask you if you had a hand in this, but I thought, well, I'm not 100% sure, and I don't want to ask him if he's not. But I'm glad you came out and said it already. So you are responsible for some, if not all of these. Good to know.
I helped come up with some. So did Jeff, but I believe I came up with the best named achievement for getting one of them.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
We'll leave it at that for now.
Yes, we will. Excellent. Jeff, what about same question you? I know there's a lot going on in Franchise Hockey Manager 6. What are 1 or 2 or 3 new features, big or small, that we may not have spoken about yet that you're excited about for Franchise Hockey Manager 6?
Let's see. We've covered quite a bit. One thing, I actually totally forgot about this when we were doing the little detailed live stream earlier. I forgot to mention that you can now offer preseason tryouts to players. So when you're playing as the NHL team, you can bring in, you don't necessarily have to have a guy signed to a contract. You can, if you've got, say, junior players that you haven't signed yet that you've drafted, or if there's, say, a free agent out there that doesn't belong to another team, you can offer him a preseason tryout, and then you get a chance to sign him at the end of that if it works out well. That's one of the big new. That's something that's been asked for quite a while. That's in the game now. Let's see. I don't think we mentioned tonight that, or at least on this show, that we've added historical jerseys for the whole. Well, at least the entire NHL history. So when you're playing as those, you'll get the proper uniform for the team in that season, and we've got a complete logo coverage. Before there were little gaps in it where we didn't have the official logos for, say, the 1976 Cleveland Barons or the 1917 Montreal Wanderers. It's all in now. We've got all of that, so you won't be seeing those generic NHL logos anymore.
Like that. Love that. There are, who doesn't love a good old real logo? That's what everybody wants. Fantastic. Okay, well, as we mentioned at the start, Franchise Hockey Manager 6 comes out on Friday, October 11th, but you can pre-order it today. You can get normally is on $39.99. You can get it for $35.99, 10% off, and you will get it early, 5 days early. You'll get it on October 7th. You can do that by going to ootpdevelopments.com. You'll be able to pre-order it directly from us there. If you are a Steam person, have no fear. You will be able to put it on your wish list as of right now as you are listening to the show. It's there live. And if you want it through Steam, you'll just have to wait till launch day, October 11th, and then you can get it for that same 10% discount for about a week or so on Steam as well. So all sorts of different ways. But if you pre-order it from us, it really does help us out. There is no doubt about that, right? You want to support indie sports strategy game development. If you pre-order it directly from us, that is a great way to let us know that you support us, and we appreciate that. So, Jeff, before I let you go, sir, the producer of Franchise Hockey Manager 6, anything else you wanted to make sure you mentioned, or any sort of final thoughts as you want everyone to know what's happening this early October with your hockey game?
Just that it's even with all the time we spent talking about it tonight, there's still stuff that we haven't mentioned yet. So there's just a huge number of new features and changes, and I'll try to get up a really complete list of that maybe on our forums fairly soon, so you can see absolutely everything that's been done. But there's been a huge amount of work that's gone into this over the last few months, adding and changing things, and there's something for everybody, I think, in this new version.
To hear that. Adam, same question to you. Any sort of final thoughts on Franchise Hockey Manager 6, and anything you want to mention before we let you get out of here?
That's a tough one, but I think just a lot of good improvements, as I think we've already kind of talked about. I know everybody on the test team's been very active doing a lot of different work. I know I spent a lot of time doing adding some new lines in for some stuff too, to help create some more fun stuff with retirements and whatnot too. So I'm really excited to see what people think as the game comes out.
Love it. Very good. Franchise Hockey Manager 6. If you want to know anything about it, you can go to the forums. You can watch Wednesday nights live, 10 p.m. Eastern. Jeff and Adam do the live stream. They'll be doing all sorts of Franchise Hockey Manager 6 stuff between now and launch and afterwards. Not just on Wednesday nights. I'm sure we'll sneak some extra special bonus streams in there as well. Obviously, Out of the Park Now, the podcast. You can head to Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. All the different places where Franchise Hockey Manager is. Jeff, thank you, sir, for joining us. Get some rest. You've been working really hard on this game, and everyone in the community appreciates that. Thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Rich.
And Adam, same thing to you, my friend. We all appreciate what you do for Franchise Hockey Manager. Thanks for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it. And once again, Out of the Park Developments, otpdevelopments.com. Go pre-order Franchise Hockey Manager 6 today. 10% off. Get it early. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you soon.